Actually, this is such a good question because it's not something I've been asked before when I've been interviewed before. And I was thinking, what do I like to learn? And I think in terms of academic, that I don't do a lot of academic learning right at the moment, but I do. Well, I say that, but then what I do is I look at storytelling all the time, and I enjoy watching movies, I enjoy reading books, and I enjoy learning as much as I can about different ways of storytelling. The other thing I do a lot of is cooking, and I love trying out new recipes, so I'm always learning new things. At the moment, we're trying to cook some more Indian dishes, which has been really I've been doing that with my children, so we've been doing a lot around learning with cooking. In the summer, I tried climbing, and that was trying to do some rock climbing, but I did also learn that I don't really like it, that I'm very scared of heights. So I got 25 meters up a cliff and then discovered that I wasn't loving it, so I had to be hoisted back down again. So I think the good thing about learning is it's not just about learning new things, it's also learning about yourself and what you like and discovering new things. And I think that continues well into adulthood, discovering all the things that you want to do and all the things that you like to try out. I did always love inventing things and coming up with ideas, and I think creativity was something that I was always really interested in as a child. I think Scooter is way more talented than I am because he doesn't just come up with the ideas, he can actually create them as well. So I'm more of an ideas person, and when I was young as a child, I did used to make potions, and I'd go into the garden and I'd pick all the plants and I'd make perfumes and potions, and I'd turn them into pretend they were magical things and try and get my brothers to drink them, which didn't always go so well. But so I think that's around creativity for me, and inventions particularly I think is something we can foster through gameplay and through fun, and that's certainly what I've done with my children as a parent. We play this game, and it's called the What If game. It's how we come up with story ideas. It's actually how we came up with the idea for An Alien in the Jam Factory. We go around various places, the beach or for a walk or in the woods or something, and we find something that kind of looks interesting. So maybe on the beach we'd find a shell, or in the woods a stick, and we have to come up with a story based around the thing that we've found. And they come up with amazing ideas. We had this shell once, and sometimes you can put a shell to your ear and you can hear the sea. We put the shell to our ear and we'd hear someone going, "Help me." And we were a bit like, that'd be such a good story. And so I came up with An Alien in the Jam Factory with my children playing the What If game. And we were eating a jam tart. So I don't know if you have jam tarts, but they come in these cases. And my daughter commented that it looked like a little spaceship. And we literally sort of went, imagine if what if a tiny alien arrived and started flying around in one of these pastry cases? And that was kind of how the whole story developed, all through the What If game. So I think it's just through gameplay and having fun and I don't know, having fun yourself as an adult. It's not necessarily about setting work and saying this is what you must do. It's about saying, oh, what would happen if this? And I think it's about having fun. But I do think actually specificity really helps. When I go and do author talks, I often say to children, we've got a Jam Inventions challenge, and I'll go in and I'll say, right, think of a problem that you've got. It could be anything, like your shoes smell, or you'd rather have your hair a different colour, and then think about how jam could solve that problem for you. And they have to come up with an invention around how jam could solve that problem. So for example, someone came up with a shoe spray made of jam to make their shoes smell nice. Someone came up with a green hair gel to make their hair change colour. And jam toothpaste because they didn't like the taste of toothpaste. They came up with and someone even came up with amazing. They came up with bouncy shoes. So they'd heated the jam till it was a bouncy jelly and attached it to their shoes, and that meant they could bounce around because they wanted to be able to bounce higher. But I think that's around specificity and saying, right, think of a problem, think of jam, bring them together and create an invention, and it seems to be a really great way to help them come up with ideas. It was something that I was quite passionate about. I did not want this to be an issue-led book about disability. I wanted this to be an inclusive empathy read, where children could read the book and learn what it is to have cerebral palsy, but that they could also see that it doesn't have to be the entire focus of a person who has cerebral palsy. So my goddaughter, it was actually written for her. She has cerebral palsy, and she's funny, she's smart, she's inventive. And she also has cerebral palsy. There's so much about her that's interesting and fun, and cerebral palsy is not all of her. And I think I wanted to represent that in a book, and I didn't want to represent disability negatively. I wanted it to be seen as what it is. It's a person who lives differently, and it doesn't have to be that's not a negative thing. That's their life. I wanted to represent it accurately. And I didn't want it to be the focus of the book, equally because it's not my direct experience, it's my goddaughter's experience. And I didn't think it was right to add issues that weren't my own around disability. So many teachers have gotten in touch and said the kids in class are now all talking about what it is to have a disability, and that equally there are children who have cerebral palsy who feel for the first time comfortable to talk to their peers about what that means and how that feels on a level playing field, without feeling like it's something they can't talk about, or without the other children feeling like it's something they can't ask about. Because I think that's the key. I think it's to talk and to discover and to build empathy. Not all children are avid readers immediately, I think, but I don't know many children that don't love a story. Part of my author talk is often who likes writing down stories, and you normally get about half the children will put their hands up, and you say who likes making up stories, and literally everyone puts their hands up. I think it's really important for children to discover that storytelling isn't all about writing. Even the computer games, my daughters play Minecraft, and that's part of storytelling. It's world building, it's making a world, it's pretending you're in it. All of it is building a story. And actually I think children are so lucky now that they can build stories without even realising they're doing it. I think it's a bit of both. I had the idea for a character who, based on my goddaughter, that was something I'd thought about, a character who has cerebral palsy, but I didn't have the story. So that's how then, when my daughters and I played the What If game, and we came up with the idea of an alien flying around in a jam tart. But then I'm not sure if that's a story or again that's a character, because we had this tiny alien and we had her flying around in a jam tart, and it was after that we were a bit like, well, how does that connect? Why is she flying down? I think a bit of both, I'd say. I think I do, and I don't think either are wrong. I mean, I've had people who have come up with stories where they've built a world and they've said, oh, it's this magical place and someone goes in it, and then they've come up with a story that way. Or I've had people that have got a really strong idea for a character and they've come up with a story that way. I drew pictures of the characters, and I drew pictures of the inventions, and I drew pictures of the jams, and I just sort of brainstormed. So for me, it didn't start with writing at all. It started with drawing and brainstorming. I couldn't think about the jam factory, and I couldn't write about the jam factory until I drew a map of it. So I knew. So I think there's a part in the book where Frisbee's bouncing around. I couldn't even write that scene until I had a map of the factory, and I could work out where she was bouncing and what the inventions she was going to bounce into. I do have to really be able to immerse myself inside it, and I think that's a huge part of the writing process. This is something that I talk about all the time with kids, because there are so many children that don't think they're good at writing, or don't think that they're good at writing stories because they haven't got the as you say, the sentence structures aren't as good, or the spellings. But so what I always say is, when I was at school, I was terrible at spelling and I was terrible at punctuation. And in fact, I had a teacher who called my parents in to talk to them to say that I really needed to work a bit harder on my spellings. And I spent a lot of time telling stories and making up stories and pretending myself to be in other worlds and other lands, but I couldn't always write them down. And I wasn't actually a very keen reader as well, not until I was in year 6, so not until I was about 10 or 11. And I had a teacher who, I think she realised how much I loved stories because I was always telling them. But so she sort of sat with me and found books that I'd like, and she really nurtured a love of reading. And once she'd nurtured that love of reading, she also nurtured a love of writing them down, and really gave me a lot of help really with my punctuation and my spellings, and really encouraged me, because she was a bit like, you've got these amazing ideas inside you, but you can't, but if you want people to read them, you need to work on those things so that you can share them. So I always say to children that those skills are not the main skills to becoming an author. The main thing is having a huge imagination and thinking of ideas and coming up with strange things and playing the what if game. And I mean, the great thing about becoming an author ultimately is you're just telling stories. Really, all I can say is a big imagination is probably one of the biggest skills you need, and I think there's no child without one of those. I mainly read children's books. I read an awful lot of kids' books, and I read comedy because I love books that make me laugh, and I like learning about how to use comedy in my books as well. So books that make me laugh. But if I'm reading an adult book, I tend to read murder mysteries. I quite like a mystery that I have to solve, and I've got I really love solving them, and it's a point of pride that I'm always determined to solve them quite early on. So yes, I am working on 2 new books actually at the moment, and they're both out next April. So the first one is called Treasure Under the Jam Factory, and it's the next book in the Jam Factory series, so it's book 2. And that one's really exciting. So obviously Scooter and Frisbee are coming back to that one, and some new characters as well, that one's been really fun to write. I've actually just seen the illustrations for it, and the illustrations of Jenny Taylor is such a talented illustrator, and she has added so much more humour than there was in the words, and so she's had me giggling just at my own book because her illustrations are brilliant. So I've just seen that. And I've got another book out next year, which is a different book called I Got This. And I'm writing that I'm co-authoring it with a girl called Cara Maley, who is a 12-year-old girl who has achondroplasia, which is a type of dwarfism. And she's been on the TV quite a bit. And so we're co-authoring it and we're writing it together. So that's quite an exciting, that's been a very exciting project, and loads of fun because she's a lot of fun. And that one's coming out a week after Treasure Under the Jam Factory on the 14th of April. The place I haven't been and I'd really like to go to is Canada. We were due to go during the first lockdown, and we were going to take our children and we were going to hire a camper van, and we were going to go travelling for 6 weeks, for the whole of the 6 weeks holidays, just to have a look around and just to sort of learn and discover. But unfortunately it was cancelled, so I would really like to actually be able to go and do that. I love seeing places. It's really opens your mind, I think, to all the different things that there are out there.